Welcome to Barker Palace. May I take your order, please?
Pink elephants never fly with gray flamingos.
Good morning, Agent 2000. Your mission is to prevent a local organization from exposing certain alien activities to the general public. The apparent leader of this organization is Terry Andres, a researcher well informed of all aspects of the paranormal. Working with Mr. Andres is Mr. Ron Schaffner, an investigator who specializes in the activities of Bigfoot. Kenny Young is an investigator specializing in paranormal activities happening in and around the tri-state region. And Mr. John Timmerman is a veteran UFO investigator. Word has it that he plans on revealing photographic evidence of UFO activities. Agent 2000, you may use whatever means necessary to prevent these classified secrets from reaching the public. As always, good luck.
I think a lot of people, just from movies and stuff, automatically assume that they're going to blow up the planet or something like that. And I would hope that people would be open-minded and at least find out what was going on before they would react strongly, but you never know.
Welcome to UFO Update Live. This is the Millennium Show with your host, Terry Andres, anomaly researcher, local investigators, Kenny Young and Ron Schaffner, and special guest, John Timmerman from the Center for UFO Studies.
Good evening and welcome, everyone. We're back with you. It's been well over 2 years since our last show. A lot of things have happened. That show, of course, was focused on the 50th anniversary of not only the modern era of UFOs, but the Roswell incident. In the meantime, however, even more curious mysteries cropped up, including the Y2K scare, and thankfully, we're all here to laugh at that. The worldwide communications grid at the turn of the century did not break down. World economies did not collapse. Black helicopters didn't invade our cities with anthrax or other deadly biochemical weapons. Martial law wasn't declared. So it seems we've made it through. But just because a mystery like that has been resolved doesn't mean that there are plenty of other mysteries yet to be examined. And that's what we've always done here at UFO Update Live. And tonight, we have plenty of information to go through with you with our special guests tonight. So by way of introducing our first guest, let's look at this video introduction. John Timmerman is a longtime UFO researcher. His interest dates back to the early 1950s when he actively investigated those cases that time allowed. During those years, he was affiliated with numerous civilian UFO groups here and abroad. In 1979, he joined the Center for UFO Studies at the request of J. Allan Hynek. He has since held various posts with the center, including chairman of the board. His involvement as the center's public relations vice president and treasurer has generated thousands of dollars of operating revenue. After a successful business career in fuel marketing and banking, John devotes much of his retirement time to his center duties. His home office has become a virtual archive of UFO information.
And it's a treasure that needs to be preserved and properly annotated for somebody, so that when the world finally learns what's going on, they'll say, well, that's what those guys were trying to do.
Okay, thanks for being with us. And we have with us John Timmerman, who has brought with him a load of images that we can look at and assess to indicate whether or not UFOs exist as a physical phenomenon. Before we get into those images, though, John, I believe you've got something a little more recent from England to give us a look at?
Yes, I have. One came to me as a result of correspondence with our office in Chicago. And I pursued it by calling the man in England because I was so impressed by the information he sent to them. And I found that I was speaking to a professional photographer. And I knew that I had a man of consequence because the article he sent indicated what his awards were for the work he'd been doing in some very, very fine photography. Well, anyway, I finally persuaded him to relinquish that original negative. And he sent it to us, and I forwarded it to one of our associates who is a specialist in photogrammetry. And the photography was carefully analyzed, the negative, by the photogrammetrist and some highly technical equipment. And we have here an image. I have an enlargement of it, which was created on a computer, which will be maybe a little more interesting to see if you can get a shot of that. The image will show on this lower picture a colored row of lights. What that is, we don't know. But the man who did the examination of this photography checked the schedule of satellites by various countries that were being put to into orbit by various countries, and there was no match. So this is apparently not a satellite that was suddenly appearing in this man's vicinity. We feel that that's a valid, unidentified object.
Was the
1997 it was.
1997. Was the analysis able to indicate whether this was a far-off object by diffusion, from distance?
They were unable to determine the exact distance, but it was not too far away. Unfortunately, he didn't have time to get a second picture. He had to stop the car, get out of it, because he saw it pass him over the south coast of England.
Sure.
And he had to grab a loaded camera from the back of his car and take one shot, and before he could get the second one off, it was really out of sight.
Do you feel that many of these images are maybe perhaps the most valid?
I think they're some of the very best that are available from the inventory of photography worldwide.
Well, I think let's go ahead and start looking at these images and
okay, well,
you
the
can
first
accompany
one,
them with some commentary.
Paul Trent and his wife, who happened to see something outside their farm near McMinnville, Oregon, and this was in 1950, May the 11th. At late in the afternoon, early evening, they went out, saw this thing, and took pictures of it. This is the first of the two photographs in the bottom of the craft, or whatever it was, you see here in this scene. The next picture that you'll see is the same image. However, it's been specially examined by what they call color contouring and edge enhancement. This is the edge enhancement, which reveals no evidence of a subording device. So we're dealing with something that is truly unexplainable. The next photography that was taken by Mr. Trent after the object had gone off to a distance, and you see it very near the top of this picture. It is a little hard to see, so what we'll do is blow it up and enlarge it. In the next scene, you see it's slightly askew shaft up coming out of the top of it, a kind of a spire. It's losing some of its detail because of the great distance from the camera, but it's been proven to have been approximately a mile from the camera and about 35 feet in diameter. There are people who claim that this is a hoax, but they haven't been able to explain how it could have been accomplished.
Wasn't this one of the few photos that the Colorado University study originally deemed were genuine?
Yes, that's one of the few that they said they could not find an easy answer to. And we think that perhaps that's an appropriate decision. We have here is a series of pictures of a strange object that was taken in January of 1958 over approaching the island of Trindade off the coast of Brazil. This is the first of those pictures, and it's been enlarged, of course, to make it as easy to see the image. And here's a later shot of the same image. It is a squashed Saturn-shaped thing with a ring around it. It's been carefully studied by technical people. The Brazilian government was not very cooperative to begin with in the making this thing available to the public. But Dr. Hynek went to Brazil and spoke with the man who did the camera work, and he was convinced that this was something really important. And so the photography has been regarded as good stuff. The enlargement of the object of photography that we've had in the past has not always been successful, but in this case we have one taken by a 14-year-old by the name of Allan Smith before dawn in Tulsa, Oklahoma in August of 1965. It's unidentified after very careful case investigation and photo analysis. I spoke with Mr. Smith some time ago, who is now a grown man living in Oklahoma, and he's still convinced that this represents a true unidentified object, and it's one of the most interesting color shots that I've come across. The next one we'll see here was taken by a man by the name of James Pfeiffer, an aircraft executive, aviation executive, who photographed this object while he was on a trip to Brazil. He and another witness saw that its movement and sounds which emerged from it were not typical of a balloon. So in this case, we're dealing with something that's really unexplainable. The next one that you'll see here is a picture of an object that was photographed by a man from the Argentine Air Force, a Captain Niati. He took this photo from his vehicle in a remote area near Cordoba, Argentina on July the 3rd in 1960. It seems to have what represents a cone-shaped top that disappears up and into the shape of the object itself. In checking on this one, I found I have another photograph that shows that there is actually a horse in the background, which is difficult to see in this print. But there is a horse there turning its head, looking back either at the cameraman or at this object that may be in the sky between them. An unexplainable, unidentified object. For the horse as well, I'm sure. UFOs have been reported in various shapes. And the next one that you'll see is another of the shapes. This is the cigar-shaped object which was reported to be photographed by a man by the name of Joe Ferrier, I believe his name is, up in New England. He was a radio man, and he heard by telephone calls coming in that there was an image being seen in the sky, an object in the sky. So he went out with his camera and he took several shots, and these are two of the pictures that he took, indicating a long cigar-shaped object. And that's what so many people have been reporting that they've been seeing. Back in the early 50s anyway, and the 60s, it was a very frequently reported shape. There haven't been very many of these recently, and I'm not sure why that's happening, but that's the way it is. We have here a series of lights which were observed by a sheriff's deputy in Waterbury, Connecticut. These were a ring of lights in color. There is an unusual formation here in the fact that there is a repeating sequence. If you look carefully there from the left, you'll see that there is a rather bright orange one, and then you count 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's another orange one, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's another orange one. You can do the same thing with any of the individual colors, and you'll come up with the same repeating sequence. Now that's rather difficult to explain, and there were some 30 automobiles that stopped along the highway that night to watch what was happening, and others may have taken pictures, we don't know, but the sheriff's deputy did, and this is his print. The little dot of light there and within it suggests the collection of the light from a distant star. We're not sure whether that represents that or not, but if it does, it suggests there was no structure in the middle of this circle of lights. The Air Force was interested in, not the Air Force, but the FAA was very much interested in explaining this as a series of private aircraft flying at a low elevation in a circle with unusual lights in their cabins and the running lights off on their aircraft. Well, now they'd of course be breaking the law if they did this, and if that were the case, well, I'm afraid it would have been bad news for them. However, I don't think that what you just saw would explain what you're seeing now. But that is, I think, one of the very best and most intriguing nocturnal lights in color that
So-
I've run across.
The planes would have to be flying incredibly close to each other, dangerously close, in order to get
That's
that
right. They
information.
would. They would. That's right. This is interesting because we have 3 different photographic cases in one country the same year by 3 different from 3 different sources. This picture was taken from a military or from a commercial liner approaching the city of Tehran, and it was in 1978 in the springtime at night. They looked ahead and they saw these strange images up ahead of them. They called the airport, the terminal in Tehran, asking if they were picking up anything with their radar. They said yes, they were. They were picking up images about 10 times the size of a jumbo jet. Well, that kind of corroboration is unbelievable, obviously. But the photography was somehow put out of the country by people who were interested in getting it out to the rest of the world. And the image is so interesting because the next 2 cases which you're going to be seeing have a very similar shape. Take a look at what you're seeing there, and then as you go to the next slide, you will see that there is a similarity between what was seen from that aircraft and what was seen by a young man down in the southern part of Iran. This one explains that there are 3 lights in the upper section of this image, which was a nighttime shot. A young man was studying at night, and he was interested in getting a picture of what he was seeing out the window. This image appeared in an English newspaper as a follow-up on a story that was released from the country, and they did get some stuff out. However, the third case that you're going to see, and that's the one that I had a personal contact with the photographer, was taken near the Lake Urmia, which is over in northwestern Iran. He and his younger brother were playing a game of soccer in the backyard, and the parents were away at school, being Parents' Day and Teachers' Day. They came home and found the boys hiding in a closet, and the boys told him that they had taken a photograph of what they couldn't explain that happened while they were playing in the backyard. The photography was not developed or printed, and it wasn't printed actually, it was slide film. It was not developed and processed until the family had escaped from Iran, came and entered the United States, settled somewhere near Chicago, and Dr. Hynek happened to be lecturing at the school where the young boy was attending. And he came up later and showed the picture that he had from his experience in Iran. And the photograph that you just saw is the image that he photographed. The interesting part about it was that he had drawn a picture of what he saw, told the parents about it, and what they saw in the film after it was developed in the United States matched what they had drawn.
All right, John, let's carry on with some of these interesting images.
Okay. One of several pictures taken by a man by the name of Mark Coltrane are pretty interesting because they represent, again, this similar flat discoid shape that is so common. This is one of them. He took 2 shots, and the image looks like it's slightly bent, the edge of it, which is a little bit of a mystery in terms of its dynamics. One of the things we have to remember, many people believe that these objects are outer space and that they're coming from some other place and they don't need an atmosphere in which to maneuver. Well, that's only supposition. We don't know that. Nobody knows these things. And this image just represents, again, another example. You can see from the enlargement here that it's an obviously distant object, and it would have been very difficult to get something that size, because we have some idea of its dimension, into the sky and up near those clouds. We don't know what that was. It remains an unidentified flying object. They're not all nice and bright and shiny, however. The next one you're going to see is a dark circular object, which occurred a number of years ago near Surrey in British Columbia. It was taken with an Instamatic camera, and it's one of a series of photographs that were taken at that place at that time. The young man took the pictures, and they came to Dr. Hynek's collection. I don't have the story about it, but Dr. Hynek felt it was a valid incident of an unidentified flying object. Now, a lot of these pictures I'm showing are photography which involves a negative, an emulsion film. And compare that with the problem we have today with people who have handheld camcorders.
Right.
And if they see a UFO or something they think might be that, they're up there with that camera and it's moving because of their body movement, and they don't have it stabilized. The other part about it, we don't have an emulsion to examine. And to examine videography is not nearly so successful in coming up with a chemical or a scientific study.
And I guess the problem is compounded with digital cameras.
That makes it even more difficult. That's right. So modern technology is reducing our opportunity to do scientific research in UFO photography.
That's an interesting irony, isn't it?
It's making more of them happen, whether they're really unidentified or not. In a soybean field in northwestern Ohio, a farmer went out to find that his field had been plowed up a little bit in the shape of a star. There are 5 or maybe 6 grooves in the soil there, and for what reason and by what means remains unknown. But in the center of it, there was a circular hole in the ground going down about 4 feet. And the next one of these slides coming up here will show you the man with a pole and a handle on it down in the center of that hole, the center of the structure. For what reason and how that would have occurred, we don't know. People at the University of Toledo came down, took a look, and examined the ground, the whole situation. People from utilities came to take a look. Nobody could explain why that was in that man's field. The next one, however, has had very careful study. This is the Delphos, Kansas case. It was a young man who went out into the sheep field near the barn to do something for the family. He found a very strange toadstool-shaped object hovering over the ground, maybe in touch with the ground, which eventually moved away, of course. He made drawings of it. But then the soil, that had come in contact with this object, apparently was affected in some way, and that has been very carefully studied by scientists, and there's some highly technical papers that have been written on that subject and this case. And they do deserve careful reading by those who are interested in some of the science involved in this subject. The next one we have is a shot which describes a case out in Iowa. And 2 young ladies, when they were getting ready for bed, looked out the bedroom window into the back field and saw where there should be nothing but soybeans, a strange glowing object. It was hovering over the bean field long enough, apparently, to do some real harm. Here, this photograph taken from the air sometime later, after the beans surrounding that spot had matured, we see that something very radical occurred to where the object was seen.
I suspect that a change like that overnight can't be attributed to some sort of disease or fungus?
Not likely, because, well, I don't know. If you just have to claim that the girls were they dreamed up this crazy story to describe something that they hadn't seen. And yet here was the evidence which became evident the next day to the farmer. I'm sure he's baffled as the rest of us are as to what that might have been, an unidentified object. Finally, we have an article that appeared in the Saturday Evening Post in 1967, which was written by a Mr. Arthur Sylvester, who served as an Assistant Secretary of Defense in 1961 to February 67, when he resigned and decided to write a book. In any event, in the book, and in this article, as it says, the government has a right to lie. Well, if they have a right to lie, why would they do so? Well, if anyone's been reading the news or paying attention to the information coming by the media from the government these days, they will know immediately that the government will not tell us everything they know. And if you think they do, well, I think you're in the minority these days. Seriously, if there is something of this type going on, why is it being kept from the public? And the Freedom of Information Act has been employed by an organization called the organization for a committee against UFO secrecy. Mm-hmm. That's what it is. And they have done a very valiant job of trying to have that released, if they can, from the government for careful public study. However, they took it to the lower courts, and they failed and went to the upper courts. Finally, we raised the money to put it to the Supreme Court. They agreed to examine the evidence. Well, the evidence that they examined or came to a conclusion on would not have turned up much for us, because this is the only information the public has now. This is the court's explanation as to why they can't release the information that was requested.
And most of that is deleted.
Yeah, and even that is deleted. So the explanation doesn't add up. The man who led that cause, Peter Gersten, is an attorney with a firm which is now undertaking the opportunity to get at the government, and he's having some success. Mm-hmm. So we're looking forward to seeing
Hopefully
more from
we'll
Peter Gersten.
Some more information. Stay with us, because there's plenty more stuff that we have to look at, and we'll appreciate your commentary as we go along. The photographs that we've seen are probably among the best bits of information, although they're still only circumstantial. They suggest the existence of a physical phenomena that we call UFOs and sometimes flying saucers, but in and of themselves, they are not proof that we're being visited by extraterrestrials. What makes this whole scenario with asteroids particularly alarming is that there are actually thousands of pieces of planetary debris in our solar system. Most of them cannot even be seen with the naked eye, and very few of them can be detected with telescopes. In the mix of that, there are only about a dozen folks who are actively looking for these objects. So we do have to be on the alert, because there is a very real danger of an event as depicted in our report could occur within the next 50 years. I want to bring to the panel now local investor Kenny Young. He will be telling us a little bit about the video package he's brought with him.
Terry, that's right. A lot of times also these events are mistaken for UFO sightings. Mm-hmm. Quite frequently, in fact. We do have a videotape that we're going to use as a role in here to explain some of the local investigations that we conduct, and we do have some local sightings to report, so
okay.
If they're ready to just roll
that tape.
On November 16, 1999, 911 stations all across Cincinnati and northern Kentucky lit up with citizen reports of a strange object seen in the night sky. The spectacle, seen at around 7 p.m., was witnessed by thousands and was seen for at least 30 to 45 seconds. The oddity was reportedly seen from Indianapolis, Indiana to Paducah, Kentucky. Astronomers would not theorize that the object was part of a meteor, but rather thought it to be space debris from a satellite which dropped out of orbit. And on December 3rd, this unidentified flying object was reported over Shanghai, China. The object, which was observed by at least 100 local residents, was visible for over 1 hour. According to witnesses, including the Dean of Science at Jiaotong University, the cone-shaped object was so bright that it could be seen clearly even in the day. Local airports informed that their radar systems could acquire no track of the visible target. Third, a mysterious explosion shook Seneca County, Ohio, frightening citizens and police officials in the town of Bloomville. During the early morning hours of January 5th, police dispatch officers in St. Clair County, Illinois, began receiving citizen complaints of a huge, slow-moving object said to be the size of a house. In response to the citizens' advisement of a UFO, police officers dispatched to the scene also witnessed the object, which was said to resemble an arrowhead and comprised of an unusual sprinkling of lights defined as star-field camouflage. Debunkers of the sighting assert that the officers may have seen a stealth blimp, a secret aircraft said to be under construction by the Air Force. But in the face of official denial and without conclusive data, their whimsical speculations lack basis in fact.
Okay, thanks a lot for that information. That was an interesting review of current cases. Has any of these, have any of these sightings generated any kind of commentary?
Well, they sure have, and in fact, one thing I would like to point out is how the sightings generate the interest of the debunking communities, because many times these debunking celebrities and skeptics, and I don't want to relate the two, but sometimes they tend to come
call
forward.
themselves skeptics, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
They've made some real interesting comments about this particular sighting, and this is a good sighting. So some of their recent comments, in fact, there's one I'd like to quote here by Robert Baker.
Sure.
And this gentleman, if we could put a graphic on the screen there, he said that the sightings were the result of, I believe, a social psychological phenomena.
Oh, yeah?
And I thought that was very interesting because basically he's casting an image upon the sighting that it would basically be something psychological and not a physical event. And I also have here something that we might find interesting.
Oh, yes.
That was from our area. Back in 1996, and I'll hold this up to the screen here, front page of the Cincinnati Post. When we had a rash of sightings in Middletown, Ohio, we had a gentleman, and his name was Joe Nickel. And we also have a graphic for that. And Mr. Nickel stated about the Middletown sightings, he said, it's not surprising, but he said it's called contagion.
Contagion.
An influence that spreads rapidly. So here in one case you have Joe Nickel, he's a debunker. He said this is a result of contagion, and Robert Baker said it's social psychological phenomena.
That's particularly interesting because we were involved in that Middletown case. And I do remember reading that article and thinking, well, I didn't run into this guy up in Middletown. He apparently did not actively investigate the case. Where does he get this conclusion?
Well, he's, I guess, what you might call an armchair researcher.
Absolutely.
He drew his conclusion prematurely, however, because within about a week after the sightings, we had an explanation for the sightings. And the explanation, as we learned through some investigative work, was the sighting was caused by flares suspended from underneath a balloon. Knowing that now, we realized that the comments made about the Middletown situation being caused by a state of hysteria, we know that was not the case because the people that were reporting the UFOs were indeed seeing something.
Something very physical. Even though it was a hoax, it wasn't hysteria.
Exactly.
Okay. Good. Are there any other comments that you have on some of these other cases, or do we have anything else in the offing?
We have some local sightings to briefly discuss in the area of Claremont County. I had discussed with some witnesses in that area the sightings recently of what they described as nocturnal lights.
Right.
And in that area, which is not too far from the Eastgate Mall, there was certain sightings in November, also in January, and most recently, I think this month, that the people characterized the sightings as something that looked like a match being struck. And I thought that was a most unusual detail.
Are we talking about a remote area in Claremont County?
Well, not really, not in this area. It's got isolated parts, but it's fairly populated. But one thing that we can note, which is of interest, is that the witnesses were so alarmed by this that they contacted the Union Township Police Department to notify them of the sightings. There was some speculation that this sighting was caused by helicopters working on power lines.
Okay.
But that explanation is absolutely ridiculous given the fact that we know that the sightings were happening late at night, and for very obvious safety reasons, a helicopter is not going to be operational working on power lines at night. So those are some of the recent information we have, and we'd like to inform the viewers that if anyone has any information to share about this, to let us know, to give us a call, because we're very interested in taking the information and looking at the reports.
Yeah. And of course, one of the best ways now to get that information out to the public is through websites.
One way a person could gather information about the UFO situation locally especially is to get online. And this is something now that it's very advantageous to the person who wants to educate themselves about the situation to draw their own conclusion. What we try to do is to take this information and look at it from an objective point of view and to disseminate that to the public in a way that's friendly to the internet reader. And if a person is online and they would like some more information about this, they can click on the address listed there on the screen, go to the website, and even still, if they had questions or comments, or even if they wanted to report a UFO sighting, welcome to do that by sending me email. And I would appreciate hearing from the people, and I assure them privacy concerns if that's a situation with them. One thing I'd like to point out, Terry, is that we've got a tremendous response about the website. A lot of people have been to the site, and they've dropped along comments. We appreciate your approach to the issue. We appreciate your objectivity, and I thank them for that.
Okay, we do have a caller. Joe, you've got us.
First, I just wanted to say I'm glad to see you back on. I haven't seen the show for a while, so I just assumed it was taken off permanently, so good to see you back. And also, I was kind of curious on the sighting in November of what people are confused on, whether it was a meteorite or space debris, whatever it is. Can't they track those on radar and find out where they absolutely do come down?
Well, there are some mathematical, actually trigonometry that they can use to locate impact sites within a degree of accuracy, but you still have to go out there, walk around, and look for it. The problem is, if the object burns to a total ash before it hits the surface, you're not going to find anything anyway. So it's very rare, actually, to find a fragment of anything that has burned up and broken up as much as the object in November appears to have. I'm not sure yet if anyone's decided whether it was part of a meteorite or part of a space debris, a satellite, or some other kind of rocket part.
Well, initially, Terry, I think that a lot of the local astronomers said that was not a meteor.
Right.
But then,
particularly because of its green color, which indicated perhaps the presence of copper, which would have been consistent with space debris. Now, the thinking here then would be is if it was some sort of satellite, why wouldn't you want to say it's a satellite unless it was maybe a military satellite and you didn't want anybody going out looking for it? So it's probably safe to say that whatever came through the atmosphere was either natural or man-made. Thank you, caller. Anything else? I guess not.
I guess he's not there.
Okay. Now, one of the questions I have about websites is, I guess it's pretty much up to the viewer to determine how good a website is, how valid the information is. Are there any hints that you can give us to help us wade through? I'm sure there are just tons, thousands of websites out there.
There's so much information out there on the internet now, and a lot of it is erroneous. A lot of this information is absolutely worthless. But at times, what we can do with our local websites is to take a look at this information and try to afford some investigation to the reports and to the claims before we post the information on there.
Right. And you provide links to other sites at yours?
Yes.
John?
I'd like to point out that in deference to my friend, we do have a website for the Center for UFO Studies, which is available. and we'll be glad to provide that to anyone who wishes to have it.
Sure.
They can simply contact us at our office here in Ohio by writing to Center for UFO Studies, Post Office Box 1621, Lima, Ohio, 45802. And I'll get back to them as quick as I can.
Sure, and I guess they could also do a web search. Just
Right.
by
We're also,
in-
of course, as everybody is, looking for cases where we have a physical trace case, or where we have photography, or where we have multiple witnesses. In November, there was an interesting case that occurred along the Route I-75 involving two witnesses in a truck on its way up about 1:30 in the morning right near Wapakoneta. And I have been attempting to get in touch with one of the witnesses, but he's in the process of moving and changing location. I am unable to reach him. I was hoping to have some detail to give you this evening, but I don't have it yet.
Along with information about UFOs on the web, we can find information on other mysteries, including crop circles. And we have a video report to help our viewers refresh their memories on just exactly how intriguing this particular mystery is.
The first American to champion the hollow earth theory was John Cleve Sims of North Bend, Ohio. He lobbied for funding for an expedition that would enter the earth at the North Pole.
Well, I saw my first crop circles back in 1983. There were 5 of them, the quintuplet set, very pretty pattern in itself. But when I approached them and I had a close look at the sheer symmetry, the patterning on the floor that created that particular marking, the engineer in me recognized immediately that there was something else at work here. Compressed and spiral vegetation, usually cereal crops. We know not the reason for that, but primarily cereal crops. And the circular motion, the patterning on the ground is precise, it's symmetrically precise, it's extraordinarily pretty. The cutoff points around the perimeter, the circumference of these circles are very well defined. It is as if a cookie cutter has been used from above and cut a circle into butter. It's that precise. Crop formations have been discovered in many parts of the world, from Australia, USSR, Canada, USA, Italy, Germany, Afghanistan, Turkey, Norway, and Japan.
There's a primary difficulty here. The natural vortices in the atmosphere, with which meteorologists are familiar, are the result of inflowing air that whirls inwards and goes upwards. But here we've got evidence of something which has come downwards.
One of the circles shortly after it was made, and it was a bar connecting the two circles, and in the center of the bar, where that joined the circle, there was 5 different layers of crop in the circle, where the circle been forming at the same time as the bar, and they were all layered, and none of the layers were the same direction, so they were all at slightly different angles and all layered like a weave pattern all on.
A positive evolutionary period. Nobody now doubts that. Some did, particularly well-known scientists in this country doubted the fact that we were looking at an evolutionary tendency in the patterning some years ago. That has now proven itself. We are now beyond that. These patterns are evolving at a very rapid rate. They're becoming so complex.
Kind of got involved in it because of watching the UFO Update show. You know, was surprised to find out that these things actually go on around here. Didn't know that and found that really interesting. And then one day at work on the news, they announced that there was a crop circle in Paulding County. And so I asked my boss for the time off, and he said, yeah, and we jumped in the car and drove up to find it. So it was way back off the road. You had to get out of the car, walk about a quarter mile back to the road, or back to the circle. And when you got back there, there was a walking path cut in the weed around the circle. and you could, walk around the circle and view it. It was a beautiful summer evening. Sun was catching it just right, and it was just as spectacular looking as you would think it would be. Now, whether it was a real crop circle or not, I really couldn't tell. But you looked as hard as you could to see if it had the bent weed in it, that type of thing, but you couldn't really get close enough in there to see. So I really didn't walk away knowing whether it was real or not. The most interesting part of it was the people that had all showed up to see it. Quite a few people had shown up. I would say there was probably 25 to 30 people walking around the crop circle. So as you're walking around the crop circle, you could overhear people discussing what it was and what caused it.
As our next guest can attest, the crop circle phenomenon is now global in nature. Although it started in England some years ago, we are now seeing crop circles all over the world. Jerry Schedel is with us. He ventured up to Paulden, Ohio, took some nice photos for us that we were able to put together as a panorama to get an idea of the scope and size of that crop circle. Were there any kinds of things that drew your attention at the site?
Oh yeah, I mean, first of all, the circle's spectacular.
Sure.
And it was great looking out in the wheat field and everything. It was really nice looking. Lived up to your expectations.
I'll bet it did.
Yeah. But after you'd seen the circle and everything, then you became aware of the people.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people were there, and it was great. I mean, everybody was nervously kind of telling each other these different stories about like what could have caused this, and it was pretty interesting. There was some nervous jokes being told, and there was a couple farmers there that were discussing how it had to be a tornado, or a whirlwind type of thing like that. But the greatest part of the whole deal was when we were leaving the crop circle, which was kind of tough to do. It's like, well, okay, it's getting dark, so we'll leave. And as we're walking out the highway, there was quite a few cars parked out there. So you had like a long walk to your car. And as we're walking along, this huge automobile comes rolling up next to us. As I told my wife, so well, let's get out of this lady's way. But it was apparent that we weren't going to get out of her way. She was coming towards us. So we were like, whoa, we stepped to the side, and she pulls up next to us, and she hits the electric window, and it comes down like that. She looks out the window at us, and she says, that thing back there in the field? And we're like, yeah, it's pretty neat. She goes, can't be what they're saying. And we were like, well, what are they saying? She says, they're saying it's something from outer space, and just can't be. And she just like hit the button, and the electric window goes up, and she tools away, And I look at my wife, I was like, whoa, what was that all about? But that lady was compelled to stop two total strangers on the road and explain to us, or reassure us.
Would you say that her attitude was consistent with anything else you overheard?
Yeah, pretty much so. I mean, everybody was really interested to see it, and they enjoyed looking at it, but they were kind of nervously reassuring each other, it's not from outer space. It's something that happens here.
So that kind of runs counter to the popular notion that people want to attach an otherworldly nature to some of these things right off the bat without considering anything else.
Yeah, I mean, they were working hard to make it very earthly.
They were working hard at being skeptical, weren't they?
Yeah, very hard.
Well, good for them. Any other things? Was anybody trying to merchandise the event, or?
Well, no, that was I kind of went there expecting that. I thought, well, if this is a hoax, somebody's going to make some money, and the farmer who owned the property was great. I mean, he was just letting everybody in for free, and I thought it was really going out of his way to let people tromp through his field and see this thing. It was pretty neat.
Yeah.
There was only one little incident. There was a van parked down the highway, and they had some crop circle T-shirts, which were pretty funny, but
Now, John Timmerman has also been involved with some investigations into crop circles. We do have some images that we'll be showing you, and maybe John can give us some insight on that.
I'd like to put a P.S. on there, Terry's report. This was I happened to be up there and measured the field and took samples and sent them to Dr. Levengood in Michigan. And the report that came back about a year later, because he had so many things happening that year, indicated that there were anomalous physical characteristics to the samples that we sent him. Nothing dramatic in terms of the way in which the grain was studied, but the ground itself
had some dissimilarities between the formation and the area outside. In connection with making money, the members of the family decided that they would, for their own fun, just get some T-shirts and put a message on their T-shirt. And so they were wearing those around as a family game. Well, people saw those and they wanted to buy them right off their right off their backs. And so they ended up making a few. And the money that they made, they put to a very worthy cause. Not to them personally. It was given to the local library or the church or somebody, you know, that deserved some funds. And the press got a hold of that and thought maybe that was being done for the purpose of raising personal assets. But really, they took a hit there because the crowd was hard on their property. It delayed their harvesting. And they were in the process, they were, you know, up against the possibility of some expense. If they had rain out there and that was all wheat turned wet, then they'd have had a moisture loss.
Could you give us some then brief commentary on this series of images that we have from a case more recent than the one?
Yeah, that was several years ago. This one happened last year. In 1999 it was now at this time. A report came to me 2.5 months after it had happened, just right near where I live in Lima, Ohio. And this was in a field of wheat of about 43 acres in east of the city. The farmer who was harvesting the wheat came across it in the process of taking down the wheat. He was going back and forth on his field, and as he approached the west edge of the field, he saw some strange appearance. And what you see here is what he saw from his harvester. Well, he took 2 photographs. His father came down, was there actually, and went back, got a camera, came back and took 2 pictures before they went ahead and harvested the rest of the wheat. He was out there to cut his wheat. He was not out there to make circles in his field. And very obviously, he could not have done that with a harvester. But the story is interesting because there have been some other circles of this same design. There was a central circle of 43 feet and 3 of 33 and 1 of about 21 feet in diameter adjacent to this formation, or a part of the formation. And they were contiguous. That is, one would overlap the other toward the center. We think that this is in some way a completely unexplainable trick that somebody created. Or something else is the cause.
So we are still pretty much in the dark as to what causes crop circles. We have I think, a diagram you prepared to...
Yes, I prepared this sketch to send to Dr. Levengood with a supply of samples. I took 119 samples of soil. It was very hard clay, so I had to chisel the stuff out. And some of it had moisture in it, which I needed to get rid of. So I put them in little plastic bags and put them in a room here to dry out, and have packed them now to be shipped up to Michigan for study. But the whole field, 2.5 months after the event, had grown up in weeds. So here you see the man this is the father of the man whose wheat field it was, coming over toward me, and you can have some idea how difficult it was to try to get samples from a hard clay in a field that had practically obliterated the formation. But the pressed down wheat was still there. It hadn't been cut. But the wheat itself had been cut at about a 6-inch elevation.
Well, maybe eventually when your samples are tested, analyzed, and you get a report back, we'll get a little more insight into what the origin of these things are. Right now, it's anybody's guess. Are they flying saucer traces of landings? Are they some sort of plasma vortex, a mini tornado? Or could they be Bigfoot nests? We don't know. But speaking of Bigfoot, we do have some very interesting developments that Kenny Young is going to report on here in a video segment. Would you like to kind of set us up for that?
Well, Terry, around October of last year, I caught wind of some information coming out of a location around this area involving audio recordings that had been made by some people who suspected this could have something to do with the Bigfoot situation. And I guess this is an appendage to current events in this area of a phenomena of some sort that we don't quite have our finger on. But the recordings are pretty startling. And the people involved have expressed a little bit of concern. We're going to respect their privacy.
Sure.
And letting our viewing audience hear these recordings. And that's a legitimate investigative step to take in evaluating a claim is to respect somebody's privacy. So we're going to withhold the location of where these recordings were taken from, but we're going to let our viewer evaluate for themselves what this could be.
Now, these so-called sounds, are they something that just happened once and then went away, or?
Well, in this instance, this was an event that began about, I think, 2 o'clock in the morning in that vicinity. And it was heard by several households or families on a road.
Sure.
That they contacted each other by telephone and they heard it. So if we could, I guess we'll go ahead and listen to this tape.
Both series of sounds were put together so that you could compare the quality and tone of the actual sounds. The local sample actually ran some 20 minutes, but was edited down for brevity. With us now is Ron Schaffner. a local Bigfoot investigator who also has looked into other types of strange animal claims in the local area. You've been doing this for what, about 25 years now?
Yeah, since about 1975.
Yeah, my goodness. Time goes so quickly.
Really.
Give us an idea of some of the things that you hear in that tape that might help us kind of, you know, sort things out.
Well, I hear, after listening to the recording that I got from Kenny, I've heard owls, crickets, and various dogs in the background. They don't seem to be quite consistent with the howl themselves, meaning that they seem like they're further in the background than what the actual howls are themselves. The howls seem to have some kind of reverb to them. I don't know if this is a Bigfoot recording or not, because obviously we don't have a real actual recording of Bigfoot to compare it to. But the difference between the recording that Kenny has presented to us, along with the recording that we heard from Columbia, which was done by my associate Matt Moneymaker, is that the howl that Matt does sounds like it comes more from the chest area, whereas Kenny's sounds like it comes more like from the throat. I'm kind of curious. I really would like to have more information about this case. If anybody else has heard any recordings like this come forth, because I'm concerned that it's stated that the sound was done from a computer microphone and it was hanging out a window or whatever. And when you do WAV files on a computer, WAV files being sound files, they take up a lot of disk space. We're talking on an average of a 1 minute file is about 1 meg on a hard drive. So if you've got a 20-minute recording done from a computer, you're talking about a lot of disk space there. Another thing I'm concerned about was a 60-cycle hum that I heard. Recording off a computer shouldn't have done that. I tried to test myself by hanging a microphone out the window and letting my dog bark, and also I had the mic next to my monitor, which should produce a 60-cycle hum, and to the computer itself, and I did not get that.
One thing I'd like to add here, Ron, is some additional information that might help you with your analysis. The persons that recorded this material have expressed to a friend of mine, an associate researcher, Chris Coffey, and myself, who we've interviewed the witnesses. They've expressed their suspicions of a Bigfoot situation in this area, and to discuss the issue further, they have recounted 50 years worth of suspected sightings of a Bigfoot type creature in the area. Whether all this is accurate or factual it remains to be determined, but there is precedent behind the recording to say this is a suspected Bigfoot issue. And so as a result, what these people have done is they've taken this audio recording and they present it, here it is, a possible documentation to accompany the historical precedent of the reports.
I understand that. I just, as I said before, I just think it would be more efficient if we knew exactly how the recording was made, and I would see the setup and be able to talk to the witnesses and look at the area. I'm not saying this is not a valid recording, although I have run it through a few associates of mine who think maybe it has the pitch, the tone, and the frequency response of a large dog, possibly from the hound family, a bloodhound, or a basset hound, and other individuals believe it's in the pitch of a human voice. So, you know, I'm not saying that these witnesses are making this up or hoaxing this. All I'm saying is that we really need more data to come to some kind of conclusion on what this could be.
We also have a situation here, not unlike what we deal with UFO photographs, is that as persuasive as the images might be or the sounds might be, a UFO picture doesn't really tell us anything without a piece of hardware. And ultimately, the sound of a howl doesn't really mean so much unless we have the animal that we can actually match it to.
One thing we could also point out, Terry, behind the scenes here at UFO Update Live, we are aware of a 1995 case, I believe that's the year, from the same locality, independent witness involved. We're also aware of some similar vocalizations also reported independently of that even
right,
still, from the
actually,
same area.
An associate of our producer, Bob Leibold, while talking on the phone with Bob, Bob had the vocalizations playing, and his associate was quite startled to recognize the howl as something she had heard, I think, some 15 or 16 years ago locally. Again, a very strange sound. Whatever the source may be, though, it's not something we can really draw to a definite conclusion until we bag a Bigfoot, so to speak.
Absolutely.
Yes, John?
To extend the Bigfoot to northwest Ohio a little bit, I've never been into that very much, and so I certainly am not an expert by any means. But I did have a couple of reports come to my attention up near where I live in Allen and Auglaize and Logan County. I think this was in Auglaize County, actually, where a couple who had a pair of very vicious dogs to protect them at their home in the country. And nearby there were some wooded areas, as there are, of course, throughout that part of the state. And they let the dogs out one time because they were anxious to get out for some reason. And they disappeared. They heard them howling and running away, but they never came back. And so they went searching for their dogs. And they tell me, I can't prove this, it's anecdotal, but they say that they found the remains of those two dogs deep in a wooded area nearby. And they had been ravaged and eaten, partly eaten, by somebody for some reason, and the remains were left right there. Now, this was a wild tale, but it was told to me by people I respected for other reasons, and I can't say that they were dreaming one up just for me. It doesn't sound like it.
Well, it makes for a good story, though, doesn't it?
It was interesting.
Yes.
A lot of times you have to determine how the animal was attacked.
Sure.
If it appears that whatever attacked the dog or any other animal was cut from the throat area, that usually indicates a mountain lion, cougar, or that type of animal, a cat type attack. But if it's attacked more in the gut area, then it's something else that we have to look into.
So we're, in a sense, there's much that can be learned from remains of attacked
Oh,
animals
absolutely,
that
yes.
help us
Type of
identify
wounds,
the type
yeah.
of predator. Ron, you've got cases of your own, of course, that have been taking up your time, and we'd really like to get into some of those now. I believe we have some videotape that you would like to make a comment on.
Well,
but if you have some comments.
No, I was just going to say that, you know, we're talking about how it's hard to analyze sounds of howls and everything. It's also very hard to analyze video nowadays. Of course, we got the famous Roger Patterson film in '67, which seems to be pretty authentic, although some debunkers have attempted to come to another conclusion. But we also have a video of what was called Snowwalker, that for a while that people thought was authentic until some investigation was done on it. And I'd like to show this video here. It was recently shown on one of the local networks on a hoax show.
Before we get Ron's comments on this piece of film, we'd like to take Diane, a caller. We'd like to hear from you. What do you have for us, Diane?
Oh, hi there. I just found your show, and I'm devastated to know that this kind I'm just in shock.
Devastated for what reason?
To know that these kind of things really exist. This is like what I watch on the Discovery Channel.
Well, we're glad you found it here.
Oh, I am too. I'm in awe, and I wanted to call you and tell you this.
Does it make you want to think about these things?
Oh, I've always thought about it, but, you know, it's like it's somewhere else, you know, in another country. I never thought anything like that was actually here in Ohio.
Oh, it's happening right here.
And I seen them lights you were talking about over down in Cincinnati, and I thought that was a, what do you call it, meteorite?
Mm-hmm.
You know, with the tail and
Right.
all that. I never once thought it was a UFO.
Yeah.
You know, and the crop circles are very interesting. But I thought I seen a show about that how these guys were making them with wood sticks.
Yeah, that's the Doug and Dave theory, and what that forces us to believe is that a small number of people are involved in making hundreds, maybe thousands of these circles. Now, clearly, a number of them have to be fabricated, but it seems outside the realm of human ability to make as many crop circles as investigators have found.
That's true. That's true.
Well, thank you for your call.
I'm really interested in this Bigfoot theory.
Yes.
This is very fascinating, but I hope we don't have to have a body.
I
would
hope not
hate
to.
to see
Unfortunately, that's what it's going to come down to.
that. Oh,
ma'am.
I hope not. I hope not.
Some good video footage would help.
Well, what about the one that they showed, the one famous one where it's walking through the woods like
Yeah, that would
they
be.
thought it was a female.
Yeah, that would be the Roger Patterson, Bob Gimlin film in 1967. I think that's pretty valid, but there
And
is
they
still.
showed the breast that they thought it was a female.
Yes, ma'am.
That was pretty impressive to me.
Yeah.
I don't think anything, especially a female, they're not going to just attack. Maybe a male would be more apt to attack somebody, but
Well, we've had no reports of these things actually attacking humans.
yeah,
We've had problems with livestock and dogs,
yeah.
but I know of no case, and I've been in this for a long time, that any human had been attacked.
But do you really think we've got these in our woods in Ohio?
Well, ma'am, the only thing I can tell you is we study the reports.
Uh-huh.
We have no actual creature, but we do have quite a bit of reports from the state of Ohio and from a lot of credible individuals.
And we're trying to find out.
The sound. Well, I really want to know. If you find out, I got to watch this. How often are you on now?
Rarely. We're not on a given schedule at this point. And we thank you for your call and your
Okay,
input.
and thank you very much. Very interesting. Very interesting. Thank you.
Okay, Ron, what about the Snowwalker?
The Snowwalker film was very intriguing when I first seen it. It came out on a short-lived show on the UPN network called Paranormal Borderline show.
Oh my God.
Obviously, it didn't work because the ratings went down and it was a short-lived program.
Do you have any examples of what we can discover when we approach the Bigfoot mystery with scientific instruments and ways of detecting movement, say at night or?
Well, we have used infrared photography, infrared video motion to record some stuff. We had a case in South Carolina, as you see here. We took some infrared. The people claimed that a Bigfoot they thought was getting into their garbage and out in the woods. If you watch the left-hand side, you'll see an animal climbing down a tree and then back up again. We have determined this is a small black bear cub climbing up and down a tree. The point I want to bring out is we try to explain these cases to people if we find a logical explanation. This was a setup. The witnesses allowed us to set up photographic equipment there. Here's a high contrast scene that you can tell a little bit better. And we have determined that it was a brown bear. So, what we try to do is we try to identify whatever the animal is, what the person's reporting to us. We use all our means to try to identify it. Once we can't identify it, then it becomes an unknown.
So you wouldn't classify yourself as, say, a debunker, just looking for
I'm
an easy-
skeptical, but I'm not a debunker, no. The best investigative procedure would be to eliminate all known possibilities, known animals first.
Yeah, and your opinion that the Patterson film may still be genuine often, obviously indicates that you are open-minded, at least about the evidence.
Right. Although I still do have a few problems with the Patterson film, but I think the evidence pretty well says it's authentic. My main concern is that a lot of people say there's a lot of these creatures roaming around. I would think we would have better footage by now with technology the way it is with video. Evidence to me indicates that these creatures probably are dwindling more than increasing in population.
Do you have a current case, something that you're kind of working on right
Well,
now that you could give us some details on?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, me and Kenny did one in 1997 in Adams County, Ohio, in the town of Duncansville. This lady in her mid-40s described seeing a very small creature, 4 to 5 feet tall, that she described as monkey-like in appearance. She said she saw this thing at about 11 o'clock at night, and her dogs were acting up and tried to chase after it. And she called them back, and this creature turned around, looked at her, and jumped over the fence into the woods, and she thought she heard some kind of strange sound afterwards. And a very big animal, not compared to your, average 6-foot tall Sasquatch reports that we get. But it may have been a baby Sasquatch. I mean, that's a possibility. Although we have determined that it's a good possibility also that since Adams County is known for people keeping exotic pets and stuff, that it could have been a released or escaped marsupial or a small primate, exotic monkey, or something along this line. But we found the case very intriguing. We took some photographs of it, and based on what the witnesses told me and Kenny, we thought that she really did see something like she described.
Ron, I also had an opportunity about a year ago to interview 2 people from Adams County who also reported a giant hominid that they claimed was in the vicinity of the G.E. Peebles testing facility, which is near Peebles in West Union, Ohio. And those people, to me, sounded very credible, knowledgeable about what they had seen.
So we have ongoing cases and we have mysteries yet to resolve.
Well, we also have a case in Jefferson Township, Adams County, where a teenager saw something very similar to the case I just described, and that was just last year.
Good.
If the viewer is interested in more information of this kind, you can go into my website, Creature Chronicles. And this site contains information on cases that are currently ongoing and also cases that I've researched and investigated over a 20-year span. The site also contains additional research and related material. Then the viewer can link to the BFRO, which is a website that was created in 1995 and is the largest database of its kind on the internet. I am a co-founder of this website and an archivist who collects old newspaper clippings. The main page includes things like an introduction into the subject and frequently asked questions on the subject material. Most of the reports contain our old newspaper clippings and actual reports submitted through the website. All the FAQs and anything related to the Bigfoot subject can be easily accessed through the links, which are the blue underlined text. The actual database is listed by country, state, and provinces. We also include reports from Asia and Australia. All one has to do is click on the appropriate report. Again, that is the blue underlined text. For instance, we will go into Ohio. We can link into the different counties of Ohio. And for instance, we'll link into Pike County, which is a recent case that occurred back in December. I would like to tell the viewer about a particular case in Pike County where a couple witnessed a strange creature on the side of the tree as they were cleaning up an old burn barrel that had fallen over. Here's a quote from the webpage. This occurred approximately 7:30 p.m. in Pike County, Ohio. My girlfriend and I went to my grandmother's house to check on some things. We noticed the barrel we used for burning leaves and trash had tipped over. I thought that was weird because the barrel was quite full. We went around the garage towards the woods to have a look around. That's when we saw this large creature with long arms. We just looked at it as it moved towards the woods. It seemed like it took 3 large steps. Then we got scared and ran for the car. All I can remember now is that it was like a shadow. I don't remember many details, but I can say that my dad is 6 feet 3 inches at 250 pounds, and this creature seemed much larger.
Well, I'd like to thank John Timmerman for having joined us. We've reached the limit of our ability to investigate these mysteries this evening. But John, thank you for being here and your valued commentary on UFO photographs. Kenny, thanks again for the valuable information you've passed to us about various types of phenomena. And Ron, thanks for the jaundiced view that you that you can provide to us to help us clarify some of the information that comes our way under the guise of maybe paranormal activity. And I want to thank the viewers for tuning in with us again. And we were really happy to come back, and we're happy that you were here for us. And remember, the best defense against being fooled is being informed. Have a good millennium.